right, we're getting ready for game number 2 between Muzzy and Bloodyface, which, you know, that one was quite the roller coaster. I kind of felt like Muzzy was ahead early, and then I saw Bloodyface's hand with the prep eviscerates with the shark that went uncontested, and then and Muzzy was able to barely fight back for the board, and then Bloodyface got a head back on board, and then Muzzy got the blade flurry.
What a roller coaster of emotions.
It was. A lot of shenanigans were had. Going into game number 2, both these players are sticking to their primary decks, which makes sense. The Betrayal, the Fairy Dragons, the Walk the Planks, they're better against mages. They're not that useful in the mirror match. Now, Bloodyface is on the play. That is not a pretty hand to start things off, but it is a hand that can respond to a fast board development from Muzzy. Specifically, Bloodyface has at least the ideal answer to a Hench Clan Thug. Sometimes it's really funny because people used to be so afraid of Hench Clan Thug in the past, TJ, that they were trying to hold the answers for it, that it almost made having Hench Clan Thug kind of a problem because they would like immediately tempo them out.
Yeah.
So sometimes not having it, like just playing a Blink Fox or a Side Agent, ended up being like a little bit better to break that up.
Yeah.
In this position, though, Bloodyface, what does he want to do, right? Does he want to go for the backside by side? Does he even want to just go for an early Van Cleave?
You can go for early Van Cleave, but then if you put damage on this Evil Miscreant, unless he picked up a Witchy Lackey,
it's wasted damage.
It's wasted damage. Now you're dealing 2 damage to gain +2/+2 on the Edwin Van Cleave, but I just don't think it's worth it early on. But Muzzy, a large resource advantage, can just fight for the board early on. Can even hold on to this weapon until Captain Greenskin, unless a Waggle pickup changes his mind about things. But this is not a great hand from Bloodyface.
No, this is Edwin Shadow Step turn.
Yep. And Muzzy has a pretty easy way to answer this with Backstab Kobold Lackey SI7 Agent. Or South Sea Deckhand, but I think South Sea Deckhand has more uses in this deck in particular. Maybe not. I don't know, maybe Kobold Lackey's better. Yeah, actually, maybe Kobold Lackey's better. You don't have the weapon requirement, you deal 2 damage and leave a 1/1 behind instead of dealing... Ah, that's tough. Which one's better, Dan? Which one do you want to keep around?
I like having more board presence, personally.
So having the 1/1 stick around?
Yes.
Okay.
Because then it forces Bloodyface to use a dagger, and it shuts down his opportunities in his plays. Because the dagger being up is not that big of a deal. It's more that Bloodyface at one point, if he ever wants to get 1 extra damage, will have to re-dagger again, which means he spends 2 more mana.
Yeah.
So it's an investment into the future, TJ. Because, you know, Bloodyface would ideally like to curve out with something else more efficient.
Yeah.
Now Muzzy gets the tempo swing he's looking for. He's been saving this Captain Greenskin combo for turn 5, and this was the big swing yesterday that we saw. Spear of the Shark.
This game is going to end very quickly, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of gave Muzzy the big edge in this matchup because they just have more ways to end the game, and
more ways to be proactive.
Yeah, more ways to be proactive, and it's cool that there's a lot of removal for the variant that Bloodyface is playing, but Muzzy's read to bring Tempo Rogue this week looks more brilliant with each passing turn.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if once Bloodyface sees his draw next turn, if he doesn't just concede if it's not something that he gets immediate value off of. Muzzy's developing another 3/3 here. He's going to develop another 2/1 that also charges for 2.
He's playing around Betrayal.
Wow.
Just in case Bloodyface has it.
Wow.
What the heck? Bloodyface was at full life, and now it's like, he's at 13.
All right, well, he gets Blink Fox and Life Trigger here, but let's count the damage on board. 7, 10, 15 damage. Life Trigger would bring him up to 19.
Right.
And he knows there's a Waggle pick in hand, so Life Trigger doesn't do anything. He knows that he's dead regardless.
So Blink Fox would have to give Deadly Poison and Blade Flurry. It's too expensive. Blink Fox would have to give Fan of Knives and Preparation. And then we'll go from there. Then he can Lava Burst the Captain Greenskin.
Yeah. He knows there's a waggle pick in hand, so I believe he's just dead on board. 7, 10, 15, and 19. Throwing a deadly poison, maybe an eviscerate from an ethereal lackey. And Muzzy, another quick 2-0. 4-0 in game score on the week, 2-0 in matches.
And 5 points for Frodan's Fantasy
And
League.
5 points for Frodan's Fantasy League.
I always had faith in the Muzz. He was my first round draft pick. Can't ever go wrong with the one drop Muzz. But the thing about it is that this might look like, oh yeah, Muzzy just crushed Bloodyface. I think that this was a deck building preparation victory because people weren't anticipating Muzzy to bring this deck list. You know, in fact, I wasn't expecting anyone to bring this Rogue, period.
Yes.
And yet, it makes sense because Rogue is still very effective at killing the mages if you anticipate them. As you can tell, Muzzy still was good against the Warriors, a very competitive win rate. Even if you argue it's favored one way or the other, the idea is that Warrior doesn't decisively beat the Rogue. It's still close. It's like a 48-52 split one way or the other. And then the third thing is, if you do match against other Rogues, which you anticipate other people doing, you're favored against them because they're playing slower. It's very similar for the people who are playing Hunter Mirrors on ladder, but one's playing like the Secret, and one's playing like the mid-range Hunter, and one's playing like the Mech. The faster, the more damage that one variant has in these kinds of matchups, the more that player's in the advantage.
In a general sense, yeah.
In a general sense, yes.
Some outliers, but this has kind of been the case in Hearthstone's history. If you look back at some lists, like the biggest one I look to is Aggro Shaman. Was very good against mid-range Shaman,
right?
Which were both very similar. Like it was hard to differentiate between the two, but just speeding up slightly ended up giving it the edge.
Yep.
So it's kind of been the case throughout Hearthstone history.
Yeah.
So
for at least board-centric, tempo-oriented decks.
Absolutely, which that's a good comparison to draw. But Muzzy, 4-0 game score, 2-0 on the week, 3-3 score now. He's moving up in the world.
That's right. And with that, we'll, I believe, be tied with Firebat for right under that playoff content. Let's go ahead and talk with Muzzy, who is joining us. Muzzy, you there? Oh, Muzzy, you might be muted on your end, but it looks like you can hear us.
Check.
There you go.
There we go.
Gotcha. Nice.
Bingo.
So I see a big grin on your face, feeling good after another 2-0, all according to plan.
Yeah. Coming in this week, starting out 1-3, it definitely didn't go my way the first 2 weeks how I wanted it to. So I felt I can't bring middle of the deck, average deck, bomb warrior, mage decks that people are prepared for and go off with a 1-1 week. I have a losing record. I want to get that back to 50% in the coming weeks, get that ahead. So I took a bit of a risk with the rogue deck, I would say, because other people didn't seem to trust it. But, after my 4-0 performance right now, I mean, is there any debate about what the best rogue deck currently is?
Results speak for themselves, man. It looked really clean. So yesterday I saw you posting with Firebat about your practice stats against yourself. Did you do the same thing against Bloodyface today where you played a bunch of games? And if so, what was the result of that?
I actually did not play any games against Bloodyface's deck yesterday after, I was very tired. I didn't get much sleep the past few days with prepping my decks and then waking up in the morning, watching GM matches, and then playing, basically 10 hours straight against Firebat's decks because that was the matchup that I wanted to do better. And I know there was ways I could improve, whereas in Rogue Mirrors, I've played them a lot in the past, so I didn't. And I've played against the Shark Rogue, not the exact list, but other lists in the past. And I knew that coming in, since I have Dread Corsairs in my deck and I can cheat mana with them, they don't have a really good way of dealing with 0 mana 3/3s in the Rogue Mirror, and you just get ahead and kill them usually. So I didn't dedicate as much practice against Bloodyface's decks than I did Firebat's.
Yeah, that makes sense, but still the confidence was able to run over, and of course your experience, like you said.
Yeah. So Muzzy, you're coming off a 2-0 week. But next week, things are getting shaken up a bit because you're going to be playing on pretty much in a whole new environment with the buffs. How are you feeling about your next week's matches? Because things are going to be far from solved by the time submission comes around.
And you're moving.
Yeah,
you're moving.
It's gonna be, it's gonna be pretty hectic. Like I move out Monday, and then I need to settle in, make sure everything's good at the new place. Buy new furniture, fridge, stuff like that, get that all in. And nerfs are hitting the day I fly out, and there's a lot of stuff going on.
Buffs.
Buffs. Oh yeah, buffs. Not
yeah. Get it right, Muzz.
Yeah, buffs are coming. So I mean,
Fine.
I have some ideas of what I want to try out. So it'll definitely be interesting. I think we'll see the meta differentiate quite a bit, and then differentiate even more once we get to Vegas, I feel.
Yeah.
That's right. Can't wait for Vegas. And can't wait to see if Saiyan can follow suit, because if Saiyan drops to 1 and 5, you have every right to, I guess, tease and kind of elbow him. Have you been talking a lot to Saiyan over the past couple of days? Because I know that you're practicing it yourself. Did you get a chance to check in with him?
Yeah, I mean, we talked sort of for this week. You know, he brought a different rogue deck. We sort of differentiated on the gameplay. He might have not had as much belief in the rogue deck as I did, because I was piloting it so much. So, and we don't like always have all the time to dedicate however many games we want practicing against each other, because he also has other opponents he needs to prepare for, and I also need to dedicate that time to prepare for my opponents as well. So that's why I sort of took the practicing against myself line a bit, which I'm doing a lot more than I did in the past. And I think it really helps me understand the matchups from both ends and sort of see, on these crucial turns, what turns do I need to play around? What turns do I make it awkward for my opponents? I mean, it probably won't work for everyone if you don't have understanding of the matchups on both ends, the decks that you're practicing versus, but once you get to it and you learn, and even if you can see that Muzzy 2 has Brawl in his hand, Muzzy wants, if the right play is to play into Brawl, I'll still play into Brawl in those scenarios.
Right.
Muzzy 2 gets me every time. He always has the Brawl on 5.
Muzzy 2 is going to qualify for Grandmasters, and then Muzzy truly can play against himself in the GM League. All right, well, one thing that I want to say as a last note here before we let you go. Happy birthday again, Muzzy. If you had one Hearthstone-related birthday wish, what would it be?
I mean, I think I got my wish this weekend. It was to go 2-0 and get back to the 50-50 record I was hoping for. So thanks, Hearthstone, I guess.
No problem.
You're welcome.
Signed Hearthstone. All right, Muzz, congratulations. Good luck on the move, and see you back next week.
Thanks again. I see it.
All right, so a very quick 2-0 fashion. Bloodyface struggling a little bit this week. He was at 2-2, and then now is at 2-4. But I know Bloodyface, he's a fierce competitor, and once the dust settles, he's going to be back, especially for next week's buffs, because he is definitely one of the more innovative thinkers out there, definitely in the Americas and obviously in the world. So for Bloodyface fans that are emerging since last year, his breakout performance, don't worry. I'm sure he'll be back with a fire. Wow, TJ, we're done with 2 matches already. What do you think?
Well, we got a Warrior Mirror to slow things down later on, but we got a Rogue Mirror coming up, so we might have another bit of a fast match with Saiyan hoping to answer Muzzy's 2-0 performance for the week.
All right, so guys, we'll be back. We're just 2 matches in, 3 more to go. More Hearthstone Grandmasters action right after this.
So you're probably wondering why I gathered you here. Let me take a moment and break it down. We've been given black eyes by the good guys. Oh, but that's about to change. Those meddlesome mortals who've mocked up our missions will finally feel some of our pain. You see, I have a devious plan that requires a demonstrative fist, and each of you will have your dreams come true as a fiendish finger of peace. What? All right, let me try this again. Alone all our dreams went. Kaboom! Yes, but united we'll take the candle. No thing bigger.
I'm seeing what you want to do.
Let me hear it.
We'll come together so we can dismantle.
Now here's the plot to capture your greed and intrigue. We'll take Dalaran for all that it's got. As we form an evil league.
Mazahidul Islam. I go by Muzzy in game. My username, as you know, my first name is Mazahidul. It's kind of difficult to say for some people, and every time someone calls you, they're gonna have to say, "Hey, Mazahidul." That's long, and you don't want to say that. My friend gave me a nickname, like, "Hey Muzz, hey Muzzy." So I sort of just took that, and name's Muzzy. I took a look at the list of players. Some of them have been more focused on streaming, I would say, in these past few years. I've participated at the highest levels of competition that they might not have appeared in. I'm the player to beat in my group, for sure. The thing that I most look forward to about competing in Grandmasters is the thrill of the competition. It's really why I play Hearthstone. It's what I've enjoyed doing for the past 3-4 years, and it's what I'll continue to enjoy doing, hopefully. I think Hearthstone Instinct is definitely my greatest skill set. I think that if I took a break for a while and didn't play the game and came back to new cards, I think I could pilot a new deck fairly well, fairly quickly. People would always mention the term burnout to me. Burnout, burnout, burnout. I didn't know what it was. I would constantly play Hearthstone all the time. I definitely want to have more titles and put my name in Hearthstone history.
Welcome back, everyone, to our third match here of the second day of week 3 here at Hearthstone Grandmasters. We are going to go into Muzzy's teammates match, justsaiyan from Radiance, going up against ETC from Fate to Karma. We saw Muzzy with a commanding 2-0 performance. It's time for Saiyan to inherit the torch and will of Muzzy. Saiyan's in the same position as Muzzy at the beginning of the week. He was 1-3. Look to see if he can equalize the score. We know that players like Muzzy, Amnesiac, and Saiyan going into week 3 at 1-3, they're much better than that record indicates, given that how well they did perform last year.
Yes.
Now that Muzzy is able to kind of go to that 3-3, we'll see if his teammate Saiyan can keep up.
Yeah, and we could make excuses for them all we want. But the truth of the matter is, they got to step it up. And Muzzy did so this week. 2-0, bringing himself up to 3-3 to tie Firebat. Bloodyface moved down to 2-4, so kind of just switch them along in the standings there.
Right.
But now we have that Division B matchup where justsaiyan is trying to equalize his score with ETC to try and catch Monsanto, who seems unstoppable, to be honest, Dan.
Right. It's, Monsanto has that early cushy lead, but that can easily change, and Monsanto will be playing later today. So we'll see if he can keep that undefeated streak. But in the meantime, focusing on ETC versus Saiyan, these are two players who are well known for their rogue prowess. Both these players have hit #1 legend countless times with the rogue class. They are very familiar with its nuances inside and out. In particular, I've been very impressed with ETC's rogue play in Grandmasters. Whenever I saw him tackle that deck, seemed to be very impressive from what I was able to see. We'll see if he's able to carry that over against one of the historically great rogue players in justsaiyan.
Yeah, and this matchup's a little bit different than the previous one we saw, which was a rogue mirror as well, where Muzzy was able to gain a significant advantage by playing the traditional tempo rogue with the raiding party and pirate package. Both these players are playing kind of the Burgle rogue. There's slight differences throughout the list. For example, Saiyan is playing novice engineers and eviscerates, but no preps, whereas ETC is playing no novice engineers, a single prep, and a South Sea deckhand. So he's got like a little bit more kind of aggression and early tempo. But Saiyan has a little bit more value in kind of that mid game because he has a Hench Clan Thug, whereas ETC has none. But if you look down the list, they're just very similar overall. Saiyan has 1 Waggle Pick, 2 Spirit of the Sharks. ETC has 2 Waggle Picks, 1 Spirit of the Shark.
Right.
Like, I'm pointing out these very small differences because that's the only way these decks differ in the first place.
Right, and I think that they were anticipating maybe going up against Mage a little bit more often. I mean, ETC's secondary and tertiary deck list does have the option for the second Shark in both of his decks.
Yeah.
I don't think either of them will necessarily come into play for this series. We might once again see both of these players go into the primary deck state. That said, I do like the former champ.
Yeah, that's one thing I wanted to point out.
The former champ from Just Saiyan, where you can play Spear of the Shark on 4, and then former champ just to overload on stats. It's kind of like your own mini Conjurer's Calling Giant play.
Yeah, it's funny because there's a chance we just may not get to see it this weekend because it's in Just Saiyan's tertiary deck, which looks like it's specifically built with Warrior Mind because it has Hench Clan Thug, former champ, and Karen Bloodhoof. So very sticky, very mid-game oriented board state kind of addition. So
yeah, but he's playing Rogue Mirrors.
But he's playing Rogue Mirrors, so it's not going to come in. But it's so cool.
Yeah, I know Saiyan too. He's actually a very low-key memer and loves to participate in a lot of community inside jokes, especially on Twitch. So I am like 90% sure. I am 98% sure that if Saiyan is asked like, why do you play former champ, he's gonna make some kind of Pog champ related pun.
I love inside jokes. I hope to be a part of one someday.
Maybe. We'll get there, TJ. Eventually, our caster chemistry will evolve beyond making fun of Derek Brown.
I hope not soon, though.
Yeah,
it hasn't gotten old yet.
I'm kind of enjoying this casualness for now.
Yeah, he's done in here after this week.
That's right.
He's going home.
After one more cast, Derek Brown will be forever banished from Hearthstone Grandmasters for eternity. Until he's invited back.
Until he's invited back.
Shout out to Derek Brown. He's doing a great job casting and thinking of new ways to introduce Hearthstone jokes through our favorite TV shows.
That's right. And standing up to Admirable as well, which is not an easy feat.
Yes. Well, it is physically, but of course, because Admirable's actually, even though he seems very intimidating, he's not like, he's actually a very gentle, jolly guy.
He is.
You might think that he might be like intense, like Admirable might be like a guy on a, that you ride past on the highway that's on a motorcycle. And like kind of and crack a beard and is able to.
Like he cracks a joke and then punches you in the elbow really hard, punches you in the shoulder really hard to drive the point home.
But he's actually very approachable and nice. But when it comes to the cast though, oh, the gloves come off.
Oh, especially Warrior Mirrors. Woo.
Well, we are in that Rogue Mirror, and early on, the early plays are relatively straightforward. Saiyan's gonna play. Oh, wait, hold on. Okay. So,
Shadow Step the Doomsayer. I don't know.
Well, once
let it go off. I don't know.
Yeah, let it go off. And actually, that ends up being something that's very interesting to think about. Because ET's like, is this good for me or is this bad for me? Because it's good in the sense that the 6 attack from the Hench Clan Thug with the dagger can't kill it. So he has to invest more.
But it's bad in the sense that if Saiyan has a backstab,
right,
or a vendetta with Hench Clan Burglar, then you fall so far behind on tempo because you don't want to expend resources to deal with this Hench Clan Thug. Doomsayer, very awkward. It's so funny that I've seen like...
Well, his option is to Shadow Step the Miscreant.
He could Shadow Step the Miscreant, yeah.
I think that's
the more serious line. But the thing I want to point out is it feels like from Faceless Lackey, I've seen like 8, 9, 10 Doomsayers. From Conjurer's Calling, I've never seen a Doomsayer. It's so bizarre. And you get 2 chances with Conjurer's Calling.
I know.
Ooh.
But is it even possible through a Conjurer's Calling, TJ? That's the question you got to be asking. If you've never seen it,
ooh, maybe it's removed.
Is it possible? That being said, Saiyan in that position where he could spend his mana and then Shadow Step.
Yeah. Could play SI7 Agent, Shadow Step, and have a very clean clear onto the board.
Yep, but it does cost resources, which is the annoying part here for Saiyan. He has that Shark, right? If he had that Shadow Step, he could put it to, in his mind, slightly better use. And now ETC is in a position where he's like, you know what? I don't know if I feel entirely comfortable. Oh, hold on. I was like, I don't know if I feel kind of comfortable to let my opponent get so far ahead on board. Maybe I have to be more aggressive with like Waggle Pick as opposed to Spear the Shark. The Zilliax allows ETC to be a little bit more liberal with his life total. That's kind of the big reason why I reacted that way.
So many
It gives him a little bit more flexibility.
I thought you just really loved Zilliax.
I do.
So with your point of being able to be a little bit more liberal with this life total, do you say just drop Spirit of the Shark here?
Right. Well, I think that was like ETC's original plan, and now with the Ziliax draw, it makes me feel like it's much more viable as an option because if he's most likely going to pick up lackeys that can have board impact.
Yeah.
So even if he doesn't Ziliax this turn, he can pick up things that will make it even better on the following turn.
Yeah.
So it's an important draw for him to plan out, right? Next turn, I think the Lackey from the Miscreant, probably a better response than just Ziliax. But the turn afterwards, he can Ziliax and squeeze in even one more Lackey. Let's say it's an Evolve one or a Cobalt for even more damage. What he's really hoping for is Saiyan can't do too much. And with the Shark right back, this is going to 0-60 real quick.
Now, ETC has a better hand to make use of the Spirit of the Shark with Evil Miscreant and Evil Cable Rat.
Right.
Saiyan has like Henchclan Burglar. But he has tempo advantage.
Well, ETC missed a Lackey here.
I
You don't think it matters that much?
don't think it matters that much. He hit 2 Ethereal Lackeys, he hit a Kobold Lackey. He has a way to deal with the Henchclan Thug.
Right. He can face his Lackey. Most likely, whatever comes out will have 2 attack, and he can Goblin Lackey and trade it. Or he can just Kobold Lackey.
Kobold Lackey and Rush Lackey. I don't know. This is tough to figure out which one's better.
Yeah.
If he faces Lackey, if one of these minions is 3 attack, it's a very clean trade, and he's wide on board.
I just
benefit.
I like getting ahead on board, and the Goblin Lackey plus Kobold Lackey is just a lot weaker than the double faceless Lackey. But it's a lot safer and guaranteed. Plus your life total is guaranteed to be protected, which is fairly important. Like we talked about, you can be a little bit greedier with your life total, but you don't want to go down to the mid-teens because that's where it gets too scary.
Yes. Ugh. Guess it's Henchclan Burglar. Right now he has just Eviscerate to deal with Spirit of the Shark.
Never Surrender. That's a Paladin's secret at 1 mana. Whenever your opponent casts a spell, give your minions +2 health. Thing is, ETC's half his hand are minions that Saiyan knows of. Rockbiter weapon. Little clunky, but still useful for damage. Okay. So, Pyroblast is damage, which is nice.
Predatory Instinct draws
Life Drinker.
Blink Shark. Or Blink Fox. Blink Shark.
TJ spoiling cards in the new set, Blink Shark.
Blink Shark, a 3 mana 3/3 with stealth that
Gains.
doubles every shark on the board. There you go.
How it doubles every bad caster joke we try to make.
Boiled!
So ETC can now take down the Shark. He's got the Harpoon ready. I mean, the Ziliax seems very clean to me as well, so I think if I'm ETC, start things off with the Lackey, see what happens.
Unity, precision, perfection.
Nice wide board. Very tough for Saiyan to deal with.
Yep, no Lackey for Heister and Togwaggle. Looking dicey right now, but he does have a pretty nice and clean play by his own metric, Life Drinker SI7 agent to take down the Ziliax. It's just that he's going to fall increasingly further behind. And even though these are a lot of 1-attack minions, it adds up over time. Saiyan deviating, going for the Miscreant, feeling like he needs the Lackeys to fight back.
Yeah, I think also for High Spirit Togwaggle, I think it's a pretty big deal for him to
Does make sense.
you try and use a treasure to come back in the game, because right now he's behind on resources and he's behind on board.
Right. Actually, the one thing he does have is health, so maybe he could use that as a way to slowly climb back.
Yeah. And let's say he gets the Wondrous Wand next turn, gets 3 cards. Let's say he draws the second Spirit of the Shark and more things that generate value, like Evil Cable Rat or Evil Miscreant. Then that's when he can start to fight back on board.
ETC, just like a straight up Mafia Don at this point. He's got so many lackeys.
Nothing.
Vendetta doesn't really work because he doesn't have that convenience of a card from another class, but it's still one of the best cards here. Wanted is like bad Vendetta, and then not bad, but just like less useful, very situational. And then Betrayal isn't very powerful. It's actually a lot better against Muzzy's deck list that plays like the Dread Corsairs for free, for example.
Choose soon.
So I have to imagine that he's leaning towards Vendetta, but Betrayal could also make sense if he's trying to keep his hand more lean.
Yeah.
And it looks like he does do that. Keeper still Address, flashy, but
Interesting.
nothing really of useful.
Ooh, did he try to play the Ethereal Lackey right there at the end?
He almost, I think it was because it's right next to Waggle Pig.
Oh, he did play.
Oh, he did play.
Oh, Deadly Poison. Damage is what you want at this point. Now, Saiyan's just pretty much out of time.
So, there are a couple ways for Saiyan to get back. This Ethereal Lackey could be core to that. Cheap shot is interesting.
It's too
He could
slow.
he can cheap shot twice. Oh, okay, I was thinking he can cheap shot twice in SI or Enclave.
Ah, this is tough. Do you go proactive on the board, or you're trying bank High Spear and Togwaggle to go for a giant swing turn? He might just take too much damage on the board. I think he has to go for like Eviscerate Edwin Van Cleave.
I think that he has to go High Spear and Togwall, get the Wonder Spawn, and hope they can go for such a dramatic swing.
I just don't know, like, by taking all this damage. I guess ETC also has to worry about just Saiyan swing. The benefit of High Spear and Togwaggle is
Right.
a 5/5.
Yes.
So you're not sacrificing all of your board tempo to get the treasure, just some of it.
Oh, also, Saiyan is accounting for the spells that were picked up, too. So if he invests into a big Van Cleave, then it's that much more devastating to have it get sapped or removed.
Yeah, true.
So that makes sense. And then SI7 Agent is just
So
weaker
many
potential than playing the High Spear Togwaggle. So when you kind of pan it out from that perspective, it makes 100% sense what Saiyan's trying to do. He's trying to inevitably hold off just long enough to get this Wanderer's Wand off and then make a miracle happen.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he even draws lethal with it. Maybe, what if he draws Leroy, like he draws Shadow Step on the next draw, and then he just Leroy, Eviscerate, and like Waggle Pig.
Whew. It's possible. It's definitely possible.
Choose soon.
Very unlikely.
Yeah, I mean, even then,
I
I don't know if that's lethal.
No, I don't know. It's not possible. 24 damage from nothing. Assuming ETC clears his board. ETC, this is a very complicated turn.
Be careful what you're saying, TJ.
He has no time.
Oh, wait. Hold on. He just gave all these minions plus attack. Oh, because he wanted to use Betrayal.
Did he get everything off?
Ah, he ran out of time.
Did he get everything off?
I don't think so. He wanted to betray and then maybe trade in? Oh, he got that. Okay. Okay, at least he removed that much damage. But there's a ray of hope here for Saiyan.
20 damage? Whoa.
TJ.
All right, Leroy?
Leader
Shadow Step Leroy is 12, plus double Eviscerate.
And prep. He needs to prep.
He doesn't have a prep in his list.
Oh, you're right. Shark. Life Drinker.
Life Drinker? Wait, that's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 18.
Free lackeys.
Oh, jeez.
Cobalt Lackey is 4, 6, 8. Okay, but he still has the Henchclamp Burglar, but he needs to make board space. The Henchclamp Burglar can pick up some big stuff here, though. Saiyan also needs to free up his hand a little bit. Eviscerate.
That last turn from ETC.
There is a way to play that better for sure.
Oh, I mean, that turn was so complicated. The Waggle Pick turns with this deck,
Lightning Bolt.
when you don't have damage, it's just so incredibly complicated because with a wide board state, you're trying to maximize what you want to bounce. So you have to think about your attacks first. Do you attack all face? Which minions do you trade in? Trying to isolate the minion you want to bounce back with Waggle Pick. What's the most efficient way to clear without taking too much damage? How do you solidify your lead? All that stuff was going through ETC's mind last turn, and he came up with a solution. He just came up with it too late and couldn't execute it fully. And that gave Saiyan the opening. Even though it wasn't a huge opening, it was a big one, because now Saiyan has the resource advantage. He has the board advantage. And
Well, he also has lethal
He
setup.
evened up life with a huge lethal setup. I mean, this is the potential for way more than a lethal setup.
Right. He has 10 cards, so even if he like burns Leroy, it's not that big of a deal, but he has so much damage. He has, of course, the Pyroblast. He's got Cobalt Lackey, Eviscerate, Lightning Bolt, Claw, plus his dagger damage.
And
plus
SI7 agent.
And SI7 agent.
So that's 4, 8, 12, 15, 18. It's lethal just from hand, and that doesn't even account for what he could possibly pick up with Ethereal Lackey, or if any of his minions stick onto the board.
Okay. And ETC is going to try to strike back. Uh-oh. That's actually a kind of a problematic card because he doesn't want to generate an extra 1/1 because it takes up his board space. Trying to use Betrayal to see if he can get rid of the Shark, but he's not killing stuff on board. ETC's dead.
Wait a second.
No, because this only kills a Shark. He just has a Pyroblast.
Oh yeah, Pyroblast. Sorry, I forgot about the Pyroblast because it halved everything in damage. Let's say ETC had cleared off everything but the Shark. Saiyan had exactly 18 damage from hand for exactly 10 mana. So ETC was just stuck kind of between a rock and a hard place there. One relatively weak turn from ETC, and Saiyan's able to take the game despite being behind pretty much the entire time.
It was such a delicate balance being held in this game, and because of all the complicated possibilities and decision trees, ETC crumbled. And I think Saiyan just held on long enough for the momentum to shift. And, you know, that's not something that you'll see every day here in Grandmasters. That was kind of a rarity. And what I know is probably going to happen is that's going to get screenshotted. And then players are going to be debating in their channels and forums for a long time about what should have happened, because even now, like based off what I was kind of reading what was going on, I think ETC could have even optimized his play further from the one that he even spotted.
Yes. It's kind of tough because just look at the composure and how fast the players acted on their complicated turns.
Yep.
ETC took a look at the board for about 30, 40 seconds and then started to act. And that was too late because of how many animations and how many things there were. Flip over to Saiyan, right away realized they needed to go quick because Wonder Swan could change things. Wonder Swans, Spear of the Sharks, just threw everything out there right away, got all the resources in his hand, and then evaluated what's the best line of play. You kind of got to move fast on those complicated turns, especially when lackeys are involved. There's just so much that can happen, and you got to move fast. So
yeah, but the big picture, Saiyan recognized the way he wins is that swing turn, invested in the Heist Baron Togwaggle, paid off in spades with a little bit of fortunate outcome that ETC fumbled there towards the very end, or at least what it looked like to be the case. I mean, it might seem like to us he made a mistake. He even emoted. Not really sure. We'll have to maybe listen to his perspective if we can get a chance to interview him. In the meantime, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, game number 2 between Saiyan and ETC.
Hearthstone Masters. Today, we're going to share one of the biggest changes coming to Hearthstone in 2019, an entirely new competitive format called Specialist. Specialist will be the default competitive format for Hearthstone Masters. From online Masters qualifiers to live Masters Tour events to the pinnacle of competition, Hearthstone Grandmasters. Ready to learn how the new Specialist format works? Let's dive right in. In this new competitive format, players select 3 30-card decks to bring to a Specialist tournament. The catch? All decks must be from the same class. In this regard, Specialist is a major departure from most other competitive formats. Amongst every player's 3 Specialist decks, one is designated as the primary deck. The player's other 2 decks are designated as secondary and tertiary decks. There are no special limitations placed on a player's primary deck aside from regular Hearthstone deck construction rules. However, a player's secondary and tertiary decks must share at least 25 cards in common with their primary deck. In other words, secondary and tertiary decks must mirror the primary deck with up to 5 cards swapped out. It is important to point out that duplicate cards count when comparing to a primary deck. For example, if you want to include 2 copies of Twilight Drake in your secondary deck, and there are no copies of Twilight Drake in your primary deck, then you must spend 2 swaps to include both cards. Unique or not, if a card isn't in your primary deck, it counts towards the 5-card difference limit. A player's primary deck is important for another reason. Whenever a new match starts, both its players must begin by piloting their primary deck. Only after the first game concludes can you choose to swap into your secondary or tertiary deck. You do not announce which of your decks you will be using in the next game, and you do not have to swap. After every game, this process repeats, allowing players to swap or stay until the match concludes. Importantly, you can swap to any of your decks between games, primary, secondary, or tertiary, including returning to your primary deck if you have previously swapped out of it. And those are all the rules for Specialists, Hearthstone's new official competitive format. So what are you waiting for? Get out there and start brewing your own primary, secondary, and tertiary decks to get a jump start on the new format and innovate like the pros.
Let the battle begin!
Saiyan currently up 1-0 over ETC in this Rogue versus Rogue. Can he carry over that momentum? Or more importantly, can ETC pick it up from game number 1? Still kind of thinking about that turn where he had the lackeys and he had like all these options in his disposal. And I gotta say, the bottom line, TJ, is you gotta act faster.
Yep.
It's not necessarily about whether or not his decisions were wrong, but it's just like you need to give yourself time to execute the plays. That is a limiting factor here in Hearthstone. Sometimes cards and interactions, their balance sometimes is often dictated by how long it takes to execute it. So I think in ETC's side, obviously you have to be thinking about things, but it's not about thinking faster. It's just that be disciplined. Once you recognize that you have X amount of time, you have to start acting on those plays.
Yeah, and I couldn't even think about his plays when I saw his turn. Also, because we were talking about Saiyan's hand and how he had the chance to pop off with High Spear and Toglag.
Right, we were interpreting
but
what Saiyan was doing.
He had 5 minions on board, Evil Miscreant, Lackeys, staring at 3 minions on, or 4 minions on his opponent's side of the board. He had a second swing of Waggle Pick, so it could have had bounce effects. So it was just very complicated, but who knows? Left a big gaping hole in my brain and my heart. But we'll see. Game number 2, chance for redemption here for ETC. Starting off with a couple of Hench Clan burglars. Has a chance to go for a 6/6 Edwin here with Prep, Eviscerate, Edwin, Van Cleave. Is a sap in Saiyan's list. Also potential for Coin Hench Clan burglar Backstab Vendetta, which we see that he has. Very fringe case scenario. I just said it because I saw it. See and say. I don't know what I'm saying anymore, Dan. Say something, so.
Seance.
Thank you. Whew. Got a little carried away.
I mean, when you see and say, it's just a seance. I think I like it. His hand still has more way to add resources and curve out, and he has that Leroy, so it is still too early to say his hand is telling him to go face, but his hand is saying you could go face and you wouldn't be stranded on an island. His hand is communicating to him, TJ. He's listening to the heart of the cards. And Saiyan with the backstab Vendetta Hench Clan Burglar is going to put a dagger in that heart of the cards. Whew. I mean, he has even ways to pick up some other powerful tools. Hench Clan Burglar is so all over the place, but because you get to discover and choose, it ends up being really good.
Ooh.
Like in this position, all of these are pretty solid. Cheap removal through Devastate. Tempo through Cone of Cold. Tempo in the sense you get to push damage or like freeze minions so they can't do anything. Although it's not really good tempo because it costs so much. And then Book of Specters for resource generation. But I think with Spear of the Shark, you're more than okay with the amount of resources you get.
Yeah. So this is an answer to the play, but I don't even know if I consider it a punish. Because I like the risk that ETC took. It was a combination of those 3 cards or Sap that should have... Plot twist!
Well, I was thinking of the Reign of Toad. One of the most effective cards to stop Rogue was Spreading Plague.
Yeah.
And when you get to spread Toads, it's a little bit better in some scenarios and a little bit worse in others. It's generally a lot weaker than Spreading Plague. if you just kind of use it across all universal cases. But based off the way metas have panned out since then, I'd say Plague is still very solid.
So
I just
many
wanted
options.
to see the plot twist that is picking plot twist.
And shuffled 2 cards in his deck.
Yeah. He could have drawn the next one and then shuffled 3 cards in his deck.
Plot twist is do nothing and pass your turn.
No, it only costs 2 mana.
Oh, sorry. Discard a card in your hand.
I wonder.
Do nothing, pass your turn.
No, it only costs 2 mana. You have 3 more left next turn.
Can't do anything. He could redagger.
No, he could play Blink Fox.
Oh, you're saying he could draw into something.
He could draw into something, of course.
Right.
All right, smart play here from Saiyan. Playing for tempo. Realized that he has Spirit of the Shark to refill his hand for value.
Yep.
So might as well play for tempo until he doesn't have an option to play for tempo anymore. Ugh.
These are less good. Flark's Bloom Zuka is interesting, but there's a lot of garbage that would get pulled, like the Evil Cable Rat and Evil Miscreant. And then also there's disastrous outcomes, where it's just like
many
Leroy comes out and then you don't have a burst anymore.
It's kind of a last-ditch effort kind of play.
Yep. That being said, I am excited to see if the Bloom Zuka getting buffed next week will change anything.
I don't think it will. It's definitely possible, especially if you can play like a bunch of Death Rattle minions and go for some type of combo effect.
Master of Disguise.
That's actually really interesting.
All right, because you get this shark and then stealth it again.
Stealth it again. Protect your shark for a second turn. Oh, you were making a joke that you get to play shark and then give it stealth twice in one turn.
Well, both work. I mean, I'm just gonna I'm gonna do what every great literature author's ever done, which is let you interpret it, and it sounds smart either way. ETC takes down the Hearthstone Berker. There's a lot of stats on the board. It doesn't look that intimidating just by 1 frog, but if you start saying you played a 6-12 on turn 6, that's a lot.
It is. But Saiyan going off with the Spirit of the Shark again has another chance for more Kobold Lackeys to keep fighting for this board.
He can rush and then transform it twice. Like, he can Goblin Lackey the Blink Fox. And then Witchy Lackey it twice. But I think he cares a lot more about the tempo. Scarabeg and Immortal Prelate?
Scarabeg is interesting with Goblin Lackey in hand.
Wow, it is the Zoo Warlock. ETC knows that there's one Henge Clan Burglar card in the deck, or in the hand right now, but I don't think it's something for him to worry about right now.
All right, this is a shift in game plan opportunity for ETC. This turn he could play Life Drinker and push 7 damage to face to put Saiyan down to 14.
I wonder.
He has 10 damage in hand, could pick up extra damage with Evil Miscreant next turn. He also has the opportunity to go for Ancestral Healing Evil Miscreant. But I think this hand screams, I got a race.
Yeah, it's just that he doesn't have that guarantee. If he Life Drinkers in this spot, he has Leroy Viscerate, and he deals 7 damage this turn. That's only 10 from hand, and if the board gets cleared, he's still far off. And his board will most likely get cleared, because it seems like there's going to be a lot of value driven off of the Shark. So Saiyan has the Life Drinker in this position. Sees that ETC isn't even trying to clear off the lackeys. Like, he could have hypothetically cleared off some of these 1/1s to stabilize a little bit. But Saiyan, I think, is going to go into defensive mode. He has that ability through Life Drinkers. He can even evolve that Life Drinker just to buff it up as, or to make it into a big minion that has taunt, or even just end the game on the backswing. Of course, after he trades. Really good sequencing here from Saiyan. The beast.
The beast.
I mean, that's a big boy.
has
I'm okay with keeping it the beast and evolving something else here.
yeah, it has minor downside, but ETC is not killing that beast.
Oh, he's going up to 8.
8's very good also though.
Whoa!
Whoa! Walking fountain.
Order. Oh man.
There's no order.
Wait, he can
didn't have board
ancestral
space.
healing the fountain. The combo has been finished, TJ. There's nothing that ETC can do. He can clear the the fountain here. He can Leroy eviscerate the fountain.
Oh god, Dan.
Leroy has no downside.
Oh no. The downside is that you have to kill a walking fountain in a rogue mirror. That's the downside.
Oh man, he's not even gonna.
He's gonna try and.
Oh, the instant
I think he's gonna try and sap it and not play a minion. But he didn't pick up a sap, so he's dead.
He's not dead immediately, but
No.
it's looking like he is shut out from this game.
Yeah. Because
Too soon.
yeah, I think his best option was to be able to sap the walking fountain and then not play a minion so he can't rush heal, and then figure out a way to get a 2-turn lethal from hand.
This guy's toast.
Not looking good. I mean, Saiyan could even Master of Disguise the walking fountain once he attacks to ensure that ETC has no way of removing it.
That's pretty funny. Yeah, I don't mind. I think if I'm saying I'm pushing with this walking fountain.
Killing off with the lackeys.
Yes.
And then, yeah.
I think I don't want to play Faceless Lackey in case I get Doomsayer.
Yeah.
Oh. This is clever. If Saiyan only makes room on the board for one, so that way he doesn't get the Doomsayer.
You're so far ahead, I don't think.
I think I Mash of Disguise and then I Dagger.
Master of Disguise, Dagger, yeah.
I like keeping the Lackey also in case I get High Spear and Togwaggle next turn.
Enter
Yeah,
the
good point as well.
Yeah, we're assuming a lot of worst case scenarios here. And that's how far Saiyan is. He has the luxury of crossing off every 0.1% chance out that ETC has.
Yep.
And I think ETC needs a Hail Mary and a half here with this Blink Fox.
Yeah, I don't even know what that Hail Mary is.
Okay. Faceless Lackey. Can it do anything in this position?
Well played.
Maybe you can spear the shark, but ETC is going to concede. And
Well
just saying, 2-0. Following suit with teammate Muzzy. Radiance is on fire this week.
Yeah, very impressive performance from both of them. Now, Saiyan still has a match to play tomorrow, so we'll see if he can match Muzzy's 2-0 score from the week. But a great start, showing a lot of expertise with this particular rogue deck, a few slight differences from ETC, but he was able to take advantage of any weak turn that ETC would have,
Right.
and kind of snowball that into a victory. So even at the end there, dotting all his I's, crossing all his T's, making sure that he didn't play into like a Doomsayer crazy outcome from the Faceless Lackey, and making sure that he got that 100% victory.
Yeah. And so congratulations to Saiyan. We're going to see if we can check in with him and pick his brain for a little bit. Saiyan, are you there?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Nothing much, man. So after Muzzy went 2-0, 2-0, you felt like you needed to go 2-0. Is that how it works?
Yeah. We were just, sandbagging the first few weeks. This is where we really start to come alive. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, Saiyan copying Muzzy again, just living in his shadow, apparently. Just kidding. Saiyan, of course.
We actually had very different opinions on the rogue decks, right? Like Muzzy brought the
Right.
Togwaggle, and I didn't. So I don't know. We're splitting up on what we think is correct here.
Oh, gotcha. So Trouble in Paradise instead. I'm just stirring up stuff. You should
Wait,
stop me, TJ. Just go ahead, take
Did
over.
you say Muzzy brought the Togwaggle and I didn't?
The pick, the Togwaggle pick, the weapon stuff.
Oh, the Waggle
The
pick.
Waggle pick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like
the
the
Togwaggle.
weapon,
Oh,
the
okay.
raiding party thing.
Gotcha. Yeah, your rogue list is actually kind of unique because you went sort of with like a halfway point almost. Because you have Hench Clan Thug, you have Eviscerates, but
one of Hench Clan Thug.
Yeah,
a one of Waggle Pick.
Yeah. What was the inspiration behind your list that you brought this week?
I kind of maybe expected a bit of Hunter potentially from ETC or Monsanto. And then Monsanto obviously just brings Rogue 4 times in a row, or 3 times in a row. Nobody sees that coming. But I wanted to be prepared in case it was Hunter, and I wanted to make sure I had the curve. And having like Waggle Pick is nice for like racing Rogue Mirror, but at the same time, it's pretty bad in other matchups. So I decided just to bring one, and no raiding party kind of stuff.
Gotcha. So yeah, in all seriousness too, saying, all jokes aside, it seemed like Radiance was struggling a lot in the beginning, and you guys are picking up the results. Did you change anything from week 2 to week 3 in preparation, outside of the normal stuff of just like trying to read the meta and get a hold of stuff?
I deleted auto chess, and I think that helped a lot. So yeah, that's really the secret.
Yeah, focus. No, I think it's good, and I think this was actually around the same time last year where I believe you also decided to put aside one of your hobbies and decided to focus on Hearthstone, and I think you also proceeded to put on one of Hearthstone's hottest winning streaks in history.
Yeah.
So maybe the start of something special again for you.
Words of advice from Saiyan. Quit all your hobbies if you want to be successful.
Don't do anything but play Hearthstone.
Yeah.
Yes. Disregard real life recreational activities and acquire legend points. So saying, clearly we're not going to ask you a question. We're just messing.
We're just going to meme at you.
You excited to move in with Muzz next week?
Yeah, I think it's a big weekend, right? Like Muzzy goes 2-0, his birthday is tomorrow, and then he moves right afterwards. Like that's a huge change of pace in your life. So I'll be with him there every step of the way, and we're gonna move to Irvine, and it'll be a good time.
Nice.
Oh,
all right.
no.
Last question.
They'll be right around the corner, Dan.
What part of LA do you live in? Right around the corner? You're like a solid 2 hours away from them.
I work there.
Oh yeah.
There's gonna be hoodlums in our neighborhood.
Do you? You kind of you're more here in Burbank. Don't worry, Sam. We'll hang out when you guys all get settled in. You have a former champ in your tertiary deck. You want to talk a little bit about that? Because I know that we have our thoughts, but I want to hear your theory on it.
So we put it in there for Warrior, and really what it was sometimes you get like these lackeys called evolved lackeys, and if you're up against Warriors, suddenly, former champion's 2 threats. You get to evolve the former champ, have whatever he summons, and then just have a lot of steam in the mid game. So we figured that was kind of the best minion to play on curve. There's not a whole lot of options for Rogue in the 5 slot, but it does its job.
Gotcha. That was a very serious answer. All right.
Yeah, that's really cool. So it took us like 3 passes of the decks before we even noticed it.
Yeah.
And it was when we were like creating the key cards for the graphic list, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool. Throw Spirit of the Shark in there, whatever. And I was like, wait a second. Former champ.
He just our theory, of course, was the Spirit of Shark combination to get a lot of stuff, but we thought that the added bonus was because you wanted to activate the chat a little bit. But I know you saying, I know you're a low-key memer, but it was a lot of fun talking to you. Thanks for dealing with us for about 3 to 4 minutes here. You are free to go and enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Good luck in your match tomorrow against Monsanto.
Always fun to talk to you guys.
All right, later, man.
See you, Sam.
He is so fed up with us.
I know.
He's like, God, I can't believe that I'm contractually obligated to sit here.
Sit here and listen to these guys.
He's like, you know what?
Chuckle to themselves.
I'm going back to losing. Forget
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Winning is like, I have to talk to TJ and Frodan, or I can lose and have that 3 minutes of my life back. Seems like a pretty good one.
Tough choice to make, Dan. Tough choice to make.
All right, well, that's just our 3rd match. Coming up next is our 4th match, which is Race versus Dog. It's going to be a Warrior Mirror. So, more Hearthstone Grandmasters action continues right after this break.